This is the exact 36-month journey that I took with my client, Lionstone Physique Coaching, to go from no systems in their business to 80% fully automated. So let's jump in, and I'm going to break this down in as much detail as I can. So getting started with Lionstone, I came in as a coach. So this was like 3 years ago. I had just moved to Melbourne after having lived on the Gold Coast for a bit. I was an in-person coach and online coach in the Gold Coast. And moving down to Melbourne, I wanted to be closer to my friend Reese, who runs Lionstone Physique Coaching. And because I was just, to be honest, I wasn't that good of an online coach. So I didn't have a consistent lead generation method, and it really impacted my ability to grow the business because I just didn't have as many clients as I would potentially like. I sat around that like 10, 15, 20 mark. I was never really able to crack past that 20. So for me, I was like, I wanted consistent lead acquisition. So I came in as a contractor under Lionstone with the intention on expanding into, a full-time coach. Once I met KPIs, etc. So I came in as a coach, and I got onboarded, which was literally just like a couple of Google Docs of training information, which is a couple of Word documents, and I was like, okay, so this is fine, whatever. I'll learn everything, and I started working with Reese in that. So I took on a couple of clients, and I said to him, what process do you follow when someone actually signs up? And he's like, well, you send them this email, which is just a template, and then you send them this email, and then you wait for them to respond to that email, and then once they've responded to that email, then you send them a message on WhatsApp, and then once they've responded on WhatsApp, you send them this message, and then you wait for them to fill out that form, and then once that's done, they will be like onboarded, and you can start programming for them. And I was like, that's like 2 weeks to get people started. And he was like, yeah, that's what we do. So I said, okay, so can I automate some of this in my like part of the business? And he was like, absolutely. Like he gave me full creative control. So a couple of clients in, I was like, all right, cool. So I'm going to set up a really simple basic Zapier automation. And what that was basically when I'd close someone, so payment went through, I would just like have a manual trigger that I would send their information. So I would just have like a Google form where I'd fill in the client's information, and it would send them all the emails that I needed them to, and get the like onboarding form sent out to them really quickly. So I ran this for, maybe 2 months or so. And I started talking to Reese about it and telling him like how I'd automated this part of it. And my clients, instead of waiting about 2 weeks to start coaching and like get their first training session and start seeing results, I managed to get it down to like maximum 2 days. So they would receive the email, they'd fill out their form straight away, because after I'd close them on the phone, their motivation is at the highest then. And that's when the pain is also at the highest as well, because you've just gone through a sales call with them about their pains, what their goals are, why it's important, why now. And also starting to talk about what they're going to, how they're going to feel in 8, 12 weeks time. It gets them super excited. But the pain is also the highest at the same time. So they're most likely to, they're the most motivated in that moment to take action and move forward. So I said to him, I was like, my clients are starting training like 2 days, sometimes the next day after I'd closed them, because I was able to program for them and get them up and running, like with the Google Drive setup that we had with Google Sheets and whatever, very quickly. And he was like, hold on. So your clients are getting one experience, but if they go to a different coach, they don't get the exact same experience. And he was like, that's bad because we wanted uniform experience across the company, because one person could have a good experience with me, but with another coach, they're not doing the same thing. So what I said was, I can deploy this to all of the other coaches. I think there were 5 coaches at the time. And it will take a little bit of time, but, we can get everyone else using the same system. So that's what we attempted to do. And knowing what I knew about like implementation of software, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I think Reese, the business owner, thought it might be easier than it was. But I'm going to walk through now what I kind of did and how I approached getting everyone else on board. So the form that I had, I opened the scope to be further for it to select like a coach. So they would enter in their first name, last name, and then a specific coach. It would just be a drop-down box with a list of coaches in it. Now, when they would fill out that form, the coach would then get an email saying, hey, congrats on signing a client. Then the client would get the emails that I'd set up that have all the information to get people started quicker. Now, the issue with this was the coaches had been doing the same process for, 1 to 2, 3 years even, that getting them to fill out that form was actually really difficult because they would forget or they just wouldn't see the value in it, and they were so ingrained in the current process that it was really hard to get them on board. So that took some time. However, eventually we did get it into play, and there was a uniform approach to onboarding clients that allowed us to significantly speed up the time it takes to get someone onboarded and coaching. I think the LTV of clients significantly increased in that time as well. I think it went from like 18 weeks to 36 weeks. And the reason why that was because they were able to get more results faster, meaning that once they're getting results faster, they build more trust with their coach. If they build more trust with their coach, then they will start to want to, align their goals more than just weight loss, right? Once you're around someone who's really knowledgeable, like a coach, like you guys are, your ideals will start to rub off on your clients. So if you're doing like a powerlifting comp, some of your clients will want to do a powerlifting comp. If you're doing a bodybuilding comp, some of your clients will want to do it. If you're doing high rocks, like some of your clients will want to do high rocks. It's all about setting the standard and then continuing with that standard. So with Lionstone at the time, we had coaches who were doing like bodybuilding shows or like just comp preps. So we were attracting clients who eventually wanted to do comp preps. So my clients that came in would start off as like, just wanting to lose weight. But around that like 12 to 14 week mark, they would realize that there's actually a lot more that they're capable of. So that increase in systems, so being able to bring people in and get them better results quicker, led to more ambitious clients, which was really beneficial for the growth of the business. So we ran that for a bit. I remember that was we had it fully up and running in October. And then I think February is when I discovered Go High Level. So I came back to Reese and I was like, look, I know that there's a software here that is super powerful, and we can replace Calendly because that was getting really expensive. And we can we can take our automated emails out of Zapier and we can start texting people, because we hadn't been texting people. We'd just been sending emails up until this point. And he was like, I wanted to text people for ages. This is great. So we started speaking about it. And in this time, Reese was always the whole time, he was mentoring other coaches. So he would help people grow their business because, he's really good at it. And in that time, he'd asked me to work on a couple of projects for some clients. And this is when my current business came into fruition, is I started, building for his clients too. So he would just bring me in. They'd say, how much to build this? And I'd be like, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, whatever. And in that time, I was like, so I'd started building these automated systems for other coaches as well, which led to better systems for Lionstone, because I would see different businesses, how they're running, and then improve on that as well. So once I'd found Go High Level, so we introduced Go High Level in the February, and I basically said, I was like, there's this incredible software that has so much automation capacity and all of these things. And he was like, great. Let's implement it as soon as possible. And I was like, cool. So what I did was I had all the coaches talk about, in an email, I had them write down as much as about themselves as possible. And what I did was, when I introduced Go High Level, it was to fix the inquiry to booked call problem that they were having. So inquiry to book call was about 30%. So someone would inquire, and then 24 to 48 hours later, maybe even 36 hours later, someone would reach out to the client and say, hey, get you scheduled in. And if they'd selected which coach they would want to work with, then Matt would reach out or whatever. And it was to solve that problem, because people would just go amiss after 24, 48, 36 hours. And God forbid that the person forgot to contact them. It was 2 weeks or whatever. So implemented GHL to fix that problem. And the way that we were going to do it was that no matter who you inquired for, if you inquired for Mason, probably shouldn't have. No, Mason, Pat, Chloe, me, any of the coaches, then you would get a specific onboarding workflow tailored to that person. So for me, I had my story, how I'd lost a lot of weight, 40 kilos, how I did it the unhealthy way, and then started doing it the healthy way when I started being coached by Reese. And it would be specific to that particular coach. And this was a massive workflow because at the time I wasn't that good at optimizing my workflows. And, there would be a bunch of different steps that were required to filter people through. Could do it a lot better now. But the actual workflow that I'd built for, inquiry to booked call was gargantuan. It was massive. It took up 2 pages on Go High Level. And I thought that was the best way to do it because, I built this system and we're going to implement it. It's going to be great. We encountered a few issues. First one being coach adoption. So coaches had just gotten used to the onboarding, and then I tried to do the inquiry process as well. So changing that on them, even though it required less work from them, was a bit tough. But also making assumptions that our clients would do things. So our prospects would do things. We assumed that if they inquired and that they would respond to a text message, or they would book a call themselves, or they would get on email and respond to something. So the way that we had set it up, so it was inquiry, they'd get a text message from their coach. So it would be an 8-minute delay, and it'd be hey, it's Matt. Just saw you inquired. It's just all automated. And there would be a specific email chain to get them to schedule their own call. So we did that. And in the beginning, it was pretty trash. It didn't work too well at all. And it was partially because we were putting too much onus on the client. After running the system of inquiry and then coach follows them up without the client having to do anything except answer a phone call. After running that system to then transitioning to one where it's more on the client to do it than the coach, it was very obvious that the clientele that was being attracted weren't going to do that. So we introduced Go High Level and had a decrease in inquiry to booking rate. It went down from 30%. I think it was 17% or something. And I looked really silly. And I was no, I'm going to fix this. So the way that I thought about doing it, I'd been doing some reading and had learned that within the first 5 minutes, if you contact someone, they're so much more likely to buy. So I stripped away all the specific coach information and I championed it off Reese, so the business owner. Even though he wasn't coaching at the time, I did it all from him. And basically what happened was as soon as someone inquired, they would get a text message, an email, and Reese would get a notification that if it wasn't within 5 minutes, if he hadn't called that person within 5 minutes, it would call them for him and it would connect Reese and the coach. Now, what happened from there is the booking rate skyrocketed. So it went from 30% to 70%, but it really went from 17 to 70%. To every lead that was coming in was getting called within the first 5 minutes. And this system that was working so well that would just pair Reese and the person together, or if he would just call them within 5 minutes, it had all of the information that they needed. It had taken them from inquiry to booked call within 10 minutes, which again had previously taken sometimes up to a week to get a call scheduled of when someone actually wants to be on a call and being sold, right? So the biggest thing here was this new software of GHL had so much capacity, and I implemented it with Reese, and then he said to his clients, this is what we're doing. We saw this dramatic increase. Let's implement it into your business. And then we did that and went from there. The business scaled, requiring more fulfillment-based automations. So from here, because we were signing more people simply from the volume of numbers, so had 70% booking rate, that the show-up rate was significantly higher. Show-up rate before was pretty high, because a lot of the bookings were organic, but now there's just more volume. So show-up rate dipped a little bit, but it was still more bookings. So the volume was increased, which meant that the coaches had to learn how to take on more than 40, 50, 60 clients, which meant that when we got to that point, we needed to figure out a way for these coaches to be able to coach more. and the onboarding automation that used to just like send out the emails and get the forms filled out changed to be like sheet and folder creation in Google Drive, and just like other little things that the client needed to get up and running faster that the coach would normally have to do. So once we did that, again, they were able to increase the amount of clients that they could go from having to like 30 to 40 or 40 to 50, 50 to 60. And it was significantly great, right? That all happened within like a year. So a year of testing and iterating and finding out what went well and what didn't. And maybe not quite a year, maybe like 6 months. Because after like 6 months after I'd implemented these systems is when I left coaching and just went full time on this business. And since then, the business pretty much runs itself. There was an acquisition of sorts, and basically what happens now is all the systems that I built still run, and they can run the business with a back-end team and not just front-end team, which is really beneficial. And Reese almost has nothing to do with it now. Pat runs most of it. So going from having no systems to 80% automated, and it has been this 80% automated for like the last 24 months, has led to so much opportunity, right? So much opportunity for Reese. He now like mentors a lot of the time. So he's got a completely other mentoring fitness business now that is crushing because he was able to essentially eject himself from this day-to-day of Lionstone and move into mentoring. Now he's done a lot of hard work, but you know, the systems that we built together have allowed him to step out and really focus on mentoring, which is a much higher leverage vehicle than coaching. So it's really interesting to unpack these systems and where it's at now. I think one of the biggest things in is the introduction of Go High Level and being able to increase that booking rate from like 30 to 70%. But one thing to think about, none of this would be possible if it wasn't for already good lead flow. So if you don't have lead flow coming in and you're not like burning leads because you don't have the time to get to them, then don't even bother trying to do any of this, because it's just going to, unless you just like started with a basic Zapier automation, because it's just going to take you out of the game that you should be in. And the game you should be in is generating leads. And the way that Lionstone did it is through referrals and content. So referrals and content were the biggest drivers of leads. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, a little bit of a different style video. Hope you guys found it valuable. And I will speak to you soon. Bye.